Phencyclidine was first synthesized in 1926, but the chemical compound sat quietly on laboratory shelves, almost entirely unexamined, for nearly 3 decades. That changed in the 1950s, when researchers at the pharmaceutical company Parke-Davis recognized its potential. They developed the compound into a surgical anesthetic, entering clinical trials under the brand name Serneal. The early data was incredibly promising. Serneal provided profound pain relief, with one crucial clinical advantage. Unlike other anesthetics of the era, it did not suppress a patient's breathing or cardiovascular function. With physical safety seemingly assured, human clinical trials advanced quickly in 1957. By 1963, Serneal had entered routine surgical use. In those early years, the drug appeared to solve a major hazard of mid-century surgery by prioritizing a stable heart rate and respiration above all other concerns. But the advantage in physical safety came paired with a severe psychiatric toll. As patients woke up from surgery, the success of the anesthetic gave way to an immediate psychological nightmare. The transition out of anesthesia triggered intense post-operative delirium. Patients experienced severe hallucinations and extreme agitation, a state of deep distress that sometimes lasted for many hours after the procedure. The clinical community simply could not ignore the psychological cost. By 1965, the human use of Serneal was completely discontinued. The compound was briefly repositioned as a tranquilizer for large veterinary animals, but this secondary application was also phased out within a few years as animals exhibited the exact same behavioral instability. PCP's rapid rise and fall in the medical field demonstrated a harsh clinical lesson. Preserving the body's physical rhythms during surgery offers no value if the chemical simultaneously breaks the brain's grip on reality. Though discarded by hospitals, the drug did not disappear. By the late 1960s, illicit manufacturing channels had synthesized the formula, and it emerged on the streets of San Francisco as a recreational drug dubbed the peace pill. Recreational use expanded steadily throughout the 1970s, where the compound eventually picked up the street name it remains best known by today, angel dust. As usage peaked in the ensuing decades, a distinct cultural panic formed around the drug. Media coverage frequently painted users as possessing almost superhuman strength and exhibiting extreme, uncontrollable aggression. Modern researchers examining the broad data have since found that those widely broadcast accounts of monstrous drug-driven violence were heavily exaggerated or completely unfounded. The clinical reality is more nuanced, but no less serious. The physical response to the drug varies wildly, sometimes inducing heavy sedation, other times severe agitation. In either case, it produces profound impairment of perception and judgment. Looking past the urban legends allows us to accurately assess the hazard. The danger lies not in mythical superpowers, but in the total and unpredictable loss of cognitive control. To understand that cognitive loss, we look at how the drug operates inside the brain. PCP actively blocks a critical pathway called the NMDA receptor, which shuts down the normal flow of glutamate signaling. These receptors usually act as the brain's integration centers. They take varying sensory inputs and combine them to construct a coherent, reliable sense of reality. Because it halts this integration, PCP is classified as a dissociative drug. It does not simply speed up the central nervous system like a stimulant or slow it down like a depressant. Instead, it severs the communication between functioning brain systems. This biological disconnection produces a profound sense of detachment, leaving the user separated from their own physical body and their immediate environment. This specific method of receptor blocking is not entirely unique to PCP. It is shared by a small family of related chemicals, including ketamine. Severing a patient's sensory input explains why the drug was initially so effective at masking the physical trauma of surgery, and why it makes navigating the basic tasks of waking life effectively impossible. Today, recreational use of the drug has declined to the point of rarity, prompting an obvious question: why does the government still require testing for it? The requirement dates back to the original framework of the federal mandatory guidelines in 1988, shaping the foundation of the DOT's testing panel in 1989. In recent regulatory reviews, critics have pointed out that other unlisted substances, such as MDMA, now show much higher rates of self-reported use than PCP. Regulators, however, evaluate inclusion based on risk rather than pure frequency. The severity of the perceptual impairment the drug causes is deemed dangerous enough to justify continuous screening, regardless of how uncommon the drug has become. Federal testing panels are not designed to track the popularity of street drugs. They are built as absolute firewalls against catastrophic cognitive failure in safety-sensitive environments. For commercial drivers, the practical danger is absolute. The drug severely distorts the perception of sounds, distances, and speed, making the safe operation of any vehicle or heavy machinery a physical impossibility. Because of this extreme profile of impairment, there is no acceptable medical explanation for its presence in a driver's system. There is zero legitimate medical use and no legal prescription pathway today. When consumed, it carries the longest detection window of the standard 5-panel test. Occasional use remains detectable in urine for 7 to 14 days. Because the chemical accumulates in fatty tissue, heavy use can extend that timeline significantly, slowly releasing back into the bloodstream. Unlike amphetamines or opioids, cross-reactivity with common over-the-counter medications is extremely rare. A verified positive result is an unambiguous indication of intentional consumption. That verified positive triggers immediate professional consequences. The driver is removed from safety-sensitive duty, reported to the FMCSA clearinghouse, and prohibited from operating a commercial vehicle until they complete the strict return-to-duty process. The vast majority of commercial drivers will never encounter anyone who uses this substance, yet its permanent presence on the testing panel serves as an unyielding guardrail, protecting safety-sensitive professions from the most absolute forms of cognitive impairment.